Yo, what is up guys, Grim here, and in today's video we're going to be discussing the new League mechanic, Trial of the Ancestors, and whether it's worth your time investigating as a profit-making mechanic. Before we get started though, I'm going to assume you guys have seen the trailer for the new League, and also the Chris Wilson 3.22 announcement where he goes into great detail about how the mechanic actually works. If you haven't seen them yet, I definitely recommend checking them out so you know how everything works. The question we'll be answering in this video is how profitable the mechanic is likely to be, or if it's going to be worth doing at all. Before we get stuck in though, I want to give you guys a bit of an overview of how I imagine the mechanic is likely going to play out. So, in order to access the mechanic, you'll need a silver coin, which I think will be pretty common as GGG generally like players to engage with the mechanic even throughout the acts, so they're very likely going to be quite plentiful. With a silver coin though, you can access the Trial of the Ancestors, similar to going to the Rogue Harbor in Heist. When you're there, you can use the silver coin to either start a tournament or continue a tournament that you're already battling in. When you start a tournament, you'll have a total of 10 enemies that you're up against. Each of the 10 enemies will have a special reward on them, and you can choose which enemy you'd like to battle to achieve and get the reward associated with them. As you beat the different enemies and you progress the tournament, upon completing it, you'll get a special reward from Hinekora. Chris Wilson said there'll be 3 options, and it seems to be a unique, a lock of her hair, an omen, or a special tattoo. When it comes to the actual auto-battling combat itself and engaging with the mechanic, we can't tell exactly what the best strategy is going to be or how hard it's going to be without actually playing it first, but here's how I imagine it's going to play out. In the early days of the League and your character, I imagine you're going to have to make use of all of the different units on offer to you, as well as the special equipment that you can tie to them. And as your character gets stronger and stronger, you'll need to rely on them less and less and less. And it's going to be a bit of a blight situation. In the Blight League, we relied on the towers heavily before we could get our characters strong enough. We need to build them and upgrade them. But later on, you get strong enough to the point that you don't even need the towers at all, and you can just sit there with your character annihilating everything. I very much expect this mechanic is going to go the exact same way. Use the units earlier, use the equipment, and later on you're just going to run through and demolish everything with your character, and it's just going to be a matter of how fast you can do it. When it comes to rewards, there are 4 different types which I've spied so far from the Trial of the Ancestors League, and the first one up here is a signature reward which comes from nowhere else, which is tattoos. So tattoos replace attribute nodes on your tree with new effects, and they seem to come in a variety of different forms. The first form is a generic uncapped one which you can apply as many as you want of. This one here gives you 1 to 7 lightning damage, replacing an intelligent node, and you can have as many of these as you want. The second variation seems to be a special one which replaces a plus 30 attribute node on your tree with a very powerful effect. I imagine every single build in the game is going to want to use at least a few of these, and the limit is that you can have 1 of these tattoos per attribute. So you can have a plus 30 intelligence, dex, and strength one. This one here gives plus 1 level to intelligence skill gems, which is absurdly strong. So I would hazard a guess to say that every single build is likely going to want an intelligence, strength, and dexterity one of these tattoos, and maybe some of the generic ones as well. There is also a third type here, which is a loyalty tattoo, but you can only have 1 of them, and we don't really know too much about these yet, but those are the 3 different types of tattoos that we've seen so far. Overall, looking at the power level here, they range from completely broken all the way to mediocre, but overall, I would say that tattoos are likely going to be present on every single build, as long as they're not overly expensive. But that means that tattoos are going to be a big carrot on a big stick here for running the mechanic and being able to sell stuff here. So it already doesn't matter how rewarding the rest of the different things are, tattoos alone are likely going to make it worth running Trial of the Ancestors itself, as long as the good ones aren't too rare and the bad ones aren't too common. The next category of rewards is Omens. So from the ones revealed so far, there's only really one which will be worth anything, and that is the Omen of Fortune, which replaces the effect of Trash to Treasure, which used to be in the game in the Prophecy League, but it got removed. So its effect is that it guarantees that when you use a Chance Orb, the item will become unique if possible. This is an exceptionally powerful effect, and people used it in the following way. way. You can use it to guarantee a unique on a base type which only has one possible unique outcome. So you could turn a Siege Axe into Soul Taker, for example, 100% of the time. You can also use it on specific bases which have a set configuration on them. So think an item like a 6-linked base which only has one unique outcome. You could use the Omen of Fortune to turn that 6-link base into a 6-link version of that unique, which can be very nice as well. And the final way that people use this type of effect is to achieve a special influence type base with a unique combination. So if you're using something like Eternity Shroud, you can make specific items unique versions of Shaper or Elder influence, which is exceptionally powerful, and that means that this Omen of Fortune is likely going to be worth quite a few Divine Orbs at some point in the league. Now, if any of the other omens are worth anything still remains to be seen. The third category of reward has one item in it, and it is Hinekora's Lock, a new currency item which has the potential to be worth a ton of currency. It allows you to foresee the next outcome of a currency item you would use on an item. Now, we don't really know how exactly this works, but it has potential to be an exceptionally powerful endgame crafting tool, which could save a ton of materials and attempts on some of the higher end crafts. My recommendation is that most of us mortals are not going to be using this one, and just to sell it to people who might want to experiment with it or use it in exceptionally high-end crafts. I can see this being very expensive if it is going to work in a more powerful way. The final category of item is generic rewards, and we've already seen some of them. So on top of the triple signature reward stack we have for Trial of the Ancestors, we also have a ton of the normal rewards we've come to expect. We've got rares, skill gems, uniques, currencies, and I imagine even divination cards, which will be present on the reward board for you to choose from. So to round us out here, let's talk reward acquisition. So you've got your silver coin and you toss it to Navali, which lets you participate in the tournament. After doing that, you're going to get this screen here, which shows all the different competitors that you have currently in your tournament and the corresponding rewards that you'll get from defeating them if you can. Overall, you're likely going to scout for any of the high value rewards we spoke about earlier. But what we've seen so far, this section of the tournament can only grant you generic rewards and tattoos, and cannot grant you omens or Hinekora's hair. So when in this section here, you're likely going to scout for any high value currencies like Divine Orbs, Chaos Orbs, etc. You're going to look for any strong divination cards which you might be able to sell or flip, and then finally you're probably going to settle on picking up any tattoos, or if there's any exceptionally expensive tattoos, you're going to go for those as well. And if you get lucky, maybe there'll be a 21-23 skill gem or a exceptionally expensive unique. So overall, you're looking for the highest value target here, kind of like Ritual. So completing the tournament also looks exceptionally rewarding, maybe even the most rewarding out of everything for this mechanic. And as mentioned earlier, Chris Wilson said in the ExileCon 2 demo that you'd get a choice between 3 different rewards. Now, what those rewards are, well, we know for sure that special tattoos come from Hinekora, and the example given was the exceptionally powerful +1 intelligence skill gem tattoo. Now, we're not sure if these types of tattoos, these special ones, only come from Hinekora, but if they do, that means completing the tournament is going to be even more worthwhile. Omens also exclusively come from Hinekora and completing the tournament. So Omen of Fortune, if it's an option there, looks pretty good. Also, Hinekora's hair is likely going to only come from her as well. But finally, Chris Wilson said there is going to be dedicated Hinekora uniques which can drop from her exclusively for completing the tournament. And on the topic of uniques, we also know there are some other uniques which drop from these specific clans that you're up against. They have a chance to spawn as the rewards on the board. But so far, in terms of uniques, we haven't seen any exceptionally powerful ones which I can see being worth a lot of currency, at least so far. But it remains to be seen. So overall, what's the conclusion? Does it look like Trial of the Ancestors is going to be worth running? Well, in my opinion, absolutely yes. It looks like it's going to be a bit of a beast. So the first reason I say that is silver coins. Silver coins are something that is going to drop in all of our maps, and you can stack them up and trade them. This is great because it allows players who don't like the mechanic to exchange their mechanic for currency to players who do want to run it, and that means everyone's happy. Players who don't want it aren't just playing standard, they get some extra money. Players who do want it can get as much as they want as it and chain run it until they don't want to anymore. So it's a big benefit to everyone involved. Now, the next thing is that it looks like it's going to be relatively quick. In the endgame, once you're mega geared, the objective is simple: kill the enemy's totem. And if you have a ridiculous amount of damage, I imagine that's not going to take much time at all. Meaning you're going to be able to extract your value and loot from it quickly, and with all those silver coins you bought, you might be able to churn through them quick smart. Meaning this is going to be a good time efficient mechanic. Next up and last up is the reward structure. The rewards are great. There are a ton of rewards which are exclusive to the mechanic itself. We've got the tattoos, which are likely going to be massive. Every build is going to want some level of tattoos. And I imagine there's going to be quite a few hits in there which are worth 1, 2, 3, maybe even more divines per tattoo, which is going to be huge. The Omens, there is at least one good one, maybe there's more as well, which you can gain access to. There's also the Hinekora's Lock, which is another reasonably large hit, I imagine. And then finally, we also do have the potential for some of the uniques which come from the mechanic to hopefully be usable as well. Now, the thing which makes mechanics good is having a good source of income and a few big hits, which can really spike the amount of currency you earn. And I can see a whole lot of them from this mechanic as long as things are balanced correctly, which is really good. But of course, it does have generic rewards as well in the form of currency, div cards, uniques, etc. And the ultimate thing here is that you have agency over what you want to pick based on the tournament that you're in. So you can choose that tattoo, you can choose that currency, you can choose what you want to, and it seems there's tons of options, meaning you have a whole lot of agency to go ahead and get what you want. Now, if there is a world in which you can manipulate those rewards further as the tournament progresses, that's going to be even better. But I already really like what I've seen so far. So overall, we've got all of the ingredients for an exceptionally powerful currency making mechanic. Now, at the end of the day, if they make the tattoos too common or they make them not common enough, we're going to have a problem. If there's no good Omens and it's 1 in 1,000 to get the good one, problem. If the Hinekora's Lock is super duper rare, okay, you'll never get it. Then that's an issue. If there's no good uniques, of course, things can go wrong. But I am liking what I'm seeing so far, and as long as things aren't completely haywire, I think we're in for a good chance at having a league mechanic which is very worth farming and looking like pretty damn fun as well. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and until next time, cheers.